So cycle 4, let us go instruction by instruction. First instruction writes to the CDB. So when it writes to the CDB, it also writes to the ROB. So it is, what is it going to write? It is going to write the content of this 32 plus R2. So that is, let us call it M of something. So it is the content of some memory location. So it is going to write that to the CDB, and the CDB is connected to the ROB and also to the reservation station. So wherever you find ROB1, just replace it with M of A1. So let us say this content was 10. So this is going to be 10. And similarly, um, we have to also replace it in the reservation station. I'll come to it in a while. So let us now look at the second instruction. It has completed execution, so nothing else happens here. Third instruction cannot start execution because it is waiting on ROB2 to complete. In the meantime, we have issued the fourth instruction here to the reservation station. It gets into the add reservation station. It also gets an entry in the ROB. So let us not forget that it gets an entry in the ROB. We look up for the source operands F6 and F2. So F6, when you look at it, it is going to have a tag here, which is ROB1. And we know that we have just got the ROB1 value, which is M of A1. And basically, you're going to get M of A1 here. So this is basically M of A1. And F2 is ROB2, and we have not yet got ROB2. So we are going to wait on ROB2. So basically here what we have done in this cycle is we've got the value of F6 or ROB1. We've written it to the ROB. We've written it on the CDB, and we have sent it also to the reservation station wherever you find ROB1. So in the next cycle, cycle 5, let us again go cycle by instruction by instruction. First instruction, which had the result in the ROB, has one last step to complete, that is ROB to ARF. So it's going to write that F6 or ROB1 to the ARF, that is the architectural register file. So that value 10, which we found as an example, we write it to the architectural register file. We also need to disconnect the RAT. So we remove the ROB1 entry from the RAT. We also disconnect the ROB because we've already written the value to the ARF. So we free up the ROB entry as well. So basically when you commit to the architectural register file from the ROB, you free up the ROB, you free up the RAT, and you update the architectural register file. So any future instruction which wants to read F6 will read it from the architectural register file. So that is the first instruction. Second instruction has written to the CDB. So we basically repeat the same steps as we did for the first load. I'll repeat it again. CDB gets ROB2 entry, which is basically F2, which is some content of some memory location again. So we call it M of A2. So the CDB is also connected to the ROB. So basically the ROB will also get that M of A2. And similarly, the RAT will also get M of A2. Then the reservation station will also get M of A2 for all of its ROB2 entries. Now, where were all the ROB2 entries? If we go to the previous slide, we see that the first sub instruction and mul were waiting on ROB2. So if you basically look at these instructions, you will see that it is obvious. Both of them are waiting on F2. And F2 is nothing but ROB2. You can see it in multiple places here. So basically, we're going to replace all of this ROB2 with M of A2 and change its state from waiting to available. So you see, I have changed m of a2 here for both add and mul. So that is what is the uh, consequence of the second instruction. Third instruction, mul, we have just updated it. We're going to start executing next cycle. The sub, we have updated the reservation station. We're going to start executing next cycle. In the meantime, we can issue the fifth instruction, which is div. So again, we repeat the same steps. We assign div to the reservation station. We assign a rob entry to div. Maybe we should first make the rob entry and then do the reservation station to understand it better. So we assign a rob entry. We rename the destination F10 to rob5. And actually, before, and we also at the meantime assign it to the reservation station. And when we do the source operand read, F0 and F6, F0 is this ARF should basically connect a tag to rob3. So we're still waiting on rob3, which means we're actually waiting on the mul to complete. Therefore, in the reservation station, I make an entry for div in the waiting column. And the other operand here is F6. So F6 is available right here in the ARF. We just disconnected the rat. So that M of A1 is going to be written here in the available column. So these are the steps that are happening in this particular cycle. So what happens in cycle 6? Again, cycle by cycle, instruction by instruction. The first one has completed, nothing to do. Second one is committing. We repeat the same thing. We write from the rob to the ARF the content of M of A2. So we've written to F2 the content of M of A2. We free up the rob, we free up the rat, and that's what we do for the second instruction. The third instruction, mul, had its operands available in the previous step. So we start executing here. And the moment we start executing mul, we can now free up its reservation station because we have the rob entry here and we also have the rat entry here, which is going to keep track of the instruction. I think there's a small mistake here. This has to be F0. F0 is the destination for mul, and that should have been F0. So I'm going to correct this later. So basically, we have the F0 entry here in the rat as well as in the rob. So we can basically free up the reservation station for mul the moment you start executing it. We can also start executing sub, and similarly, we can free up the reservation station for it. We assume that the mul and the add have separate execution units, therefore you can start doing the execution at the same cycle. The div is waiting, so you can't start execution, while the add can now be issued. So we issue it, we make an entry in the rob, we also make an entry in the rat. So F6 is going to get an entry here, which I missed, which is rob6. And we also issue it to the reservation station here. When we look up the source operands F8 and F2, F8 should ideally point to rob4. So it's waiting on rob4. And F2 is already available in the ARF. So it is already available. So these are the steps for cycle 6. So I'm not going to do all the 50 cycles here. So I'm going to stop at this point. So you can figure out what happens next. So we don't have to do the cycle by cycle, but we can kind of guess what happens here. So cycle 6, so this mul is going to take 10 cycles. So 15, it's going to finish execution and write to the CDB in 16. So let us forget the rest of these things. So they're going to happen as we explained earlier. Sub instruction starts in cycle 6, finishes in 7, writes in 8. The div is going to start execution only after its operands are available. So it is dependent on mul, which has written in 16. So the operands are available in 16 and it can start in 17. So it will take 40 cycles. So 56 it will complete and write in 57. Similarly, the add instruction is waiting on F8 and F2. So F8 is available only in 8, although F2 was previously available. So in 9, it can start execution, in completes in 10 and writes in 11. Now I want you to fill up this column here, the commit column. So this is a recommended video lecture to go through another ROB example if you wish. This goes through cycle by cycle for all the cycles, so you can go through this one. And this is also from Georgia Tech.